What's happening? What's happening, my good people? This is the Real Life Real Estate Investing Show. Uh, this is the Real Life Real Estate Investing Show. I'm looking at a couple different things here, so forgive me. But I want to definitely make sure I cue this up a little better. We are working on getting our guest in. But until she joins us, I want to make sure you all know this is a real life real estate investing show where we talk about real life real estate situations, but we bring you real life real estate solutions. I'm your host, Glenn Glasper, affectionately known as Mr. Dial Out of a Dime. And today we have none other than our guest, Miss Jessica Myers of It's Jessica Myers. I think Jessica is having a bit of a small situation joining us, but we're certainly going to be getting her on here in just a few minutes. So hang tight for the quick intro, and I'll be right back with you. All right. We are back. Hey, listen, thank you all for joining us. Again, this is the Real Life Real Estate Investing Show where we talk about real life real estate situations, but we bring you real life real estate solutions. And today, my guest is a superstar. I had to call the Obamas and arrange a appointment with her people to get her to get on the show, but we finally got her on. Listen, I want to tell y'all, first of all, Happy New Year. Happy New Year for those of y'all who are tapping in. Thank y'all for joining us. Actually, 2021 was good. 2022 is going to be absolutely amazing. And I know some people say, last year was okay and next year is going to be great. Yeah, that's what people say. But I don't know about y'all, but 2022 for me is going to be absolutely amazing. And I can also be sure that I can speak for the young lady that's going to be joining us. She's had plenty of 2020 somethings that were amazing. So I'm going to bring her on and have her share her story with us. None other than Miss Jessica Myers, the Dream. What's up, lady?
It's finally good to be here.
Absolutely.
To be on the show. I know we've been talking about it for some time now. And
I know. Listen, I know I had to send some smoke signals and bat signals and everything to get your people to get you on.
Yes, but we are here. And one of the things that you said, just talking about the new year and all of that, one of the things I learned through this whole experience is honestly, it's what you create it to be. So whether last year was good, whether last year was bad, whether this year is good, this year is bad, it's what you're co-creating. And it's almost like going to the gym. Like, have you ever spent a rough day at the gym? Like, oh, that was pretty rough. Right. But that you're going to get stronger because of it. And holding on to that is how, each day is not that it gets easier, but we get tougher.
Absolutely. See, I told y'all it's gonna be. She come in dropping gems. Y'all better watch it.
Because I used to hear the quote. It was like, "Give me 5 hours to cut down a tree, and I'll spend the first 4 cutting my axe." And I will often understand what that means because a lot of people come to me. They're like, "Jess, I just want to understand real estate, especially after acquiring the hotel." They're like, "Jess, I just want to know how to buy the hotel," and I'm like, "That's like cutting down the tree." Like not understanding that the mindset is the hours and hours of work. And what you're seeing is a result of getting my mind right, understanding that I am responsible for what I'm doing and taking control and seizing the opportunities. So that the result that you see is the acquisition of the hotels and other things that we're able to accomplish in real estate. But it comes from spending that 4 hours sharpening your knife.
True story. And that's one of my favorite quotes. I got several, but that's one of my favorite quotes where it's, where folks don't realize oftentimes what it takes for us to do what we do. Like, oh, well, this person showed up on the scene and they were successful. Yeah, no, it wasn't overnight though. That overnight 20 years and overnight, however long it took you to get to where you are, that's the overnight that people miss.
Yeah, I realized that and felt that most with Kevin Hart. When Kevin Hart came out and he was filling up arenas, because he's one of the first comedians to fill up arenas for comedy. Like most times, you go to a comedy club or you have a special show, but he's filling up arenas. And I went back and was looking at some movie over the holidays,
I
and
know.
it was an
I know.
old movie, and
What
Kevin
was
Hart
it?
was in it.
Paper or something. Paper.
Yeah.
Paper. I forgot what it is called. Something with paper in it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was so random and so old. And I'm like, wow, like it felt like an overnight success after Think Like a Man. And some of his other major plays. I was like, this man has been working for years. And
Right.
I identify with that as well. Because yes, more people have heard about me now because of what we've done in the hotel space. But I've been working in real estate for years now and putting in the work. As you mentioned, starting out as a wholesaler. That is
Right.
not easy. But you're going into the grind to learn the business and essentially get your free internship. Like I know when I was in media, it was about how can you get an internship? How can you work your way up the corporate ladder? Right. And so it's like now I learned it's not about getting up the ladder, it's about creating the opportunity so you can sit at the table.
True story. True story. So we let's get right on into it. I want to talk about a little bit about your background. Right. I gave the folks just a snippet of who you are. Let's tell them who you are. And I want to get into where you started in the wholesaling space and how that worked for you. And then we'll gradually get into how you graduate into where you are now. So tell
Okay.
folks who you are in your own words.
So part of who I am always, honestly, has been resourceful. I always started out seeing my dad as a pastor growing up, was like, I want to help people. I didn't necessarily, follow in down that space or that track, but I knew that I had a passion to help people. And so I was like, well, what's the most influential medium? Television.
Mm,
So I
mm,
ran up the corporate ladder working in TV very early on, wound it up at 22 working at the Nick Cannon Morning Show in New York at CBS. What
mm,
more says success than that? Yet the experience felt very hollow. And so it was that hollow experience that was like, wait, I'm seeing celebrity after celebrity, but it was not attributing to my bottom line. And so it was like, wait, okay, maybe I asked for the wrong thing because I got everything I desired, but it didn't produce the outcome that I wanted. So that's when I went on this path of self-discovery. That's when, my dad is like, hey, you climbing the ladder to the corporate and you made it to the perceivable top being in New York in the number one market. But what if that ladder was on the wrong wall? And that
mm,
realization led me on a journey of self-discovery that ultimately led me to the lifestyle that I wanted to lead. And it was not going to be what I found working in corporate America. And so that's
mm,
how I was like, well, if I do something else, what will I do? I went in to quit my job at CBS and they're like, no, take your time, figure out what you're going to do. Thank
mm,
God they allowed me that space because that's when ultimately I found out about real estate. Because I always thought, I feel like everybody always dreams of what they want their dream home to be or look like. And that's about the extent of real estate you think about.
mhm,
But, little did I know that there was something that a technique, a low risk technique that you didn't have to have the hundreds of thousands of dollars to do real estate, but you could do it called wholesaling, where it takes up a lot of time, but
mhm,
it doesn't take as
mhm,
much capital. And so I was like, well, I can, my job giving me a year to kind of figure it out. I have the time now to go try to understand what it is I want to do. And wholesaling, when I was able to generate my annual salary within a 90-day window, that's ultimately what allowed me the grace to go ahead and quit my job. And I went full steam ahead. So after it was only so much of giving people deals and getting investors and buyers like, hey, do you want to make 40,000 off this deal? Do you want to make 60,000 off this deal? And then when I saw that they were getting money the same way I would get money, leveraging
mhm,
credit to get into a hard money loan. But you don't know about hard money if you're not in this space. Because hard money are
mhm,
private lenders that offer you funds to help renovate and fix up a deal. Most people are scared of the interest rate, so they don't touch it. But
mhm,
little do you know, the average person can utilize hard money to get into a renovation a lot quicker than later. So understanding those concepts, understanding how to read the numbers through wholesaling is what allowed me to grow into renovations. And I'm constantly
mhm,
doing like, what can I do better? What could I have done differently? So obviously at the start of the pandemic, I was like, you know what? Well, actually in 2019, I started to do development and
mhm.
then the start of the pandemic. So I didn't necessarily go into development because of the pandemic. I actually was going in at the same time where I thought I was growing my business. The pandemic came and showed a whole different story. So, that definitely left us with a lot of challenges. And constantly that year, we were still hosting webinars like, hey, get financial freedom. We still had hope and we're hopeful for what was to come. I didn't even know until, my friend in college roommate, she was like, hey, you know, you can do the same stuff you're doing in the single family space. You can apply it to the commercial space. And so that's when, you know, the deal came about to do the hotel deal. And it was like, wow,
Mm,
because one of the things that we were taken aback from 2020 and what all happened there, most opportunities are created in a down market. Most millionaires understanding who won in the last crises and starting to have those conversations and those masterminds with other people that were smarter than me, and they helped me to understand the concept of getting a undervalued asset at this time, and how we're able to stabilize the property and, you know, ride into a cash flowing project. So it was definitely something that brewed from a down economy, understanding
wow.
how to parlay that into success. So now, you know, we've been able to acquire 2 additional hotels utilizing that same strategy. And we're still doing our development projects here in Atlanta, and we've also got projects going on in Brunswick. So it's
Hmm,
just a lot of whirling around, but thankfully I'm grateful that we've had teams along the way to help. And I love, love, love teaching people along the way.
good stuff. Good stuff. Wow. Man, listen, that took up all the bio that I was gonna read, so we'll leave
Yeah.
that.
Who needs a bio when you got me in real life?
I know that's real stuff. That's
Like
real stuff.
it's about making it come to life. Like that's what I want people to know, you know, because somebody asked me like, what credit score do you need for your to get a hotel? And I'm like, if you're asking that honestly, you're worried about the wrong thing. It's about
Absolutely.
I set
Absolutely.
my eyes on the goal. The goal is to generate 1,000 doors, however
Mm,
that needs to happen. And whoever I need to partner with to make that happen. It's not that I set it on 1,000 doors because Jessica can do and write the check for 1,000 doors all on her own, but I understand the power in collaborative economics and coming
mm.
together to take on something much larger than we are. And we accomplish something huge together.
Real stuff. Real stuff. That's that saying of if you have a strong enough why, the how will figure itself out.
Exactly. Exactly. Because then when I start, you know, speaking to the process and we start with goal setting, that's the first part of sharpening that axe. And it's
Absolutely.
not just about it's magically going to happen, because if you're getting vague results, it's because you have not put down precisely what it is that you want and what you desire.
Mm,
Because
mm,
now I'm working, like you mentioned, I used to plan out what $1 million years look like until I got on
mm.
a podcast and they were talking about $1 million days.
Right.
And I was like, wow,
Right.
you know, talk
Right.
about change in perspective. It's like, now let me set my sights on generating $1 million day. Now, what does that look like? What do I need to do? Oh, no. Now I can work backwards and reverse engineer my way into success. That's
Mm.
ultimately how I set my plans, my goals. I set what it is that I want to do. And then I reverse engineer my way back to what do I need to do to get there.
Great stuff. Great stuff. So let's talk about
How
this.
I set
So
my plan.
some people are probably wondering, what in the world is wholesaling?
Mhm,
Right. Now, some people most people that I talk to, they have an idea, but
mhm,
they have no real specific information on what wholesaling is. And now, of course, I've been on this show and I've talked about wholesaling thousands of times.
mhm.
Right. So for the new people that are tuning in, from your own perspective, from someone who took this specific strategy in real estate and parlayed it into something much major, what would you identify is wholesaling? What is that to you?
Wholesaling, ultimately, you are the middleman to making the deal happen, to bring it all
Mhm.
together. So essentially, we all see communities in urban areas, especially where a house generally has about 15, 20-year life cycle that it
Mhm.
goes, you know, a
Mhm.
family lives there, either they move up or they, you know, downgrade into a smaller place or they move up into another place. And generally, sometimes you'll walk through neighborhoods and you'll see where the houses are a little bit unkept, where it looks
Mhm.
like maybe somebody didn't get, you know, the next 20 years.
Mhm.
It looks like, you know, there's no family there. It looks vacant. And you're like, who is going to do something about it? Well, that's where you can come in and you can help do something about it, because obviously if the lawn is overgrown, the gutters are falling down, the windows are boarded up, someone is not making money off that property. And for it not to be at the tax lien, at the courthouse or whatever, somebody's paying taxes on a property that they are not making money from. So
Mhm.
that's where you're able to come in and you're able to provide solutions for these people.
Mm.
Because you know what? There are people with money that have a problem. They don't know where to go, they don't know where to spend it, and they don't know where to put it. So they need you as a wholesaler to come show them where these houses are so that they can move forward and transact and purchase the house. So as a wholesaler, you get to benefit by making money off of how to transact the deal. So obviously there are a lot more technical steps in that process, but that's where I teach and coach on this is how you do it. This is the contracts. These are the legalese. These are things you need to be cognizant of and things that you may have to work through. But ultimately it's about taking that sad, vacant, dilapidated house in that community, in that neighborhood, and selling it now to or working with working with the buyer to now take control of that asset, renovate it, fix it up, and put it back on the market. And that's how we recycle through homes within communities. It's through the investors that come in, but the investors don't know where the properties are. So that's why they need wholesalers like myself or other people that are aspiring to be wholesalers. And you come in and you're able to help to transact and facilitate the entire deal. That's how you learn without having to put up your own funds. Because remember, the buyer is the one buying it. You're just facilitating it. And the seller, they get their payoff in the end.
You dropped some major stuff in, and I want to make sure I highlight the things that you said. You said, first of all, wholesalers provide solutions. And second of all, you said that they're needed.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And oftentimes I think that's where a lot of people miss the whole idea. Like, people talk about wholesaling. But one of the things that I hear so many times is that it's oversaturated. A lot of people are trying to do it. In my opinion, the only oversaturation is people that are doing it wrong. That's the
exactly. And overpricing it just because they're slapping pricing in there. But to your point, I always tell people if it's oversaturated, people still need to drink water. Like there are 5 things. There are new water companies every day, but there are 5 things that are always going to create opportunity: disaster, death, disagreement, disability, and divorce. With those 5 elements constantly happening, to your point, there will always be need for wholesalers because there's always a need for that cycle, that life cycle of the house to be refreshed, rejuvenated, and renewed. And that's where, you can win as a wholesaler. But that's just like saying we have too many insurance agents. Well, there are 8 billion people now. Before there were 6 billion. So now you got 2 billion more people that need to be insured. That's what I mean by co-creating what success is like in your life. Co-create the opportunity. Because if you sit and let someone else tell you, based on their experience, you'll never do anything. Imagine the person right now that's working on manufacturing and watering and bottling water. Is anybody telling them there's way too many water companies out there? Nope. Because you know what? You can get your market share. There is abundance. There is enough to go around. There are over 200,000 parcels of land within Fulton County alone. Not even to talk about the 18 metro counties that we have. So to say that there is a saturation somewhere where there's plenty of room and it's bountiful. And that's just here in Atlanta. No telling what other urban cities and the type of density and opportunities that are there for other communities around the country.
Real stuff. And the thing is, that's where you look at the way you described it, it has to take on a certain type of mindset, right? When people look at something being oversaturated, and I always say that for me is from a scarcity mindset. When you have a kind of a lack mentality, you have a scarcity mindset. When you don't think in abundance, I look at the more wholesalers that are coming into the business, I welcome them. However, if they're properly educated, I welcome them. And the difference is they become my partners, right? So those are people, where I might have made $50,000 on a deal, I might make 25, right? But I'm comfortable saying that I'd rather have 50% of something than 100% of nothing, right? And having partners that I can partner with that will take up a lot of we'll call it grunt work or footwork that I would normally have to do, I'm cool with that.
Yeah.
Right. So that's how I look at it, from an abundance perspective.
Yeah. And that's why I really have to check myself because there are those moments, when starting out, especially, I didn't have much to get started into the game. All I had was my full-time job where I wasn't making that much. So it was almost just like you said, it was like a little bit of something is better than nothing. But you do have people, you have to reevaluate your plans. Like if your plans are to achieve something great, there's no way you can do that by yourself. Well, you can. It'll just take years. So you can truncate the time. And that's what I think. So yes, you can do it by yourself. You can't do it alone, but you can cut through the time by partnering with what you don't have. That's that's why I like calling myself the deal maker, because I understand that's the magic of what I do. Even taking the skills that I learned from corporate America. It was the art of the deal. I was in sales. It was about working for, the larger brand, leveraging their assets, their media and digital and real estate assets to now increase someone else. Like essentially it's about putting together the deal, selling the inventory, bringing together somebody with the capital to make it happen. Like it's still to the basis of what I do. That's how I was able to draw the bridge of my corporate experience now working into my entrepreneurial experience. Is by understanding like it's the art of the deal, the art of bringing people together, partnering with what you don't. Even if I was like, cool, let's say it was my idea to come up with the Mercedes-Benz Stadium here in Atlanta, it would be like, cool, Jessica can't do this on her own.
Absolutely.
Who all can I partner? This is a huge thing, something I've never done before. But who can I partner to make that happen? Who knows about stadium building? Who has the capital to make this happen? Like that's when you start bringing together the power players. I look at it like a seed. When you plant a seed into the ground, it's no apple in the apple seed when you plant it into the ground. But through the soil, it sources everything it needs to it. So that's the same thing you do when you write down your vision and your goal. You, like you said, you have the why so compelling. You're not worried about the how. When you have your vision and your goal in the form of a seed, you place it in fertile ground and nourish it with education. That's how you begin to source everything you need to make that happen.
Great stuff. Great stuff. Wow. Listen. So now let's talk about how wholesaling, right. So you did some development, right? Or redevelopment or actual development?
Yeah, so we do development. We build modern built homes. Our modern builds start right now. We're building a 10,000 square foot modern built home. But
I'm sorry. I mean, like I'm getting your transition. Right?
Okay.
I know what you're doing now. I know you're doing some amazing stuff now. Okay. But I'm talking about the transition from wholesaling to then, like, what was your next transition from there?
So as I mentioned, I would send out the deals, and then people, some of the buyers would be like, "Cool, let me go see about getting funds." I'm like, wait, I thought you were a cash buyer. Wait, you didn't have the fund? And they're like, no, we're going to, my hard money lender, da, da, da. And I'm like, hard money? Wait, what? So that's what I mean by like, you're getting the on the fly education. They start teaching me about hard money. And then you start learning about, wait, what does the hard money lender need to see? Because I'm thinking, man, they need to see 800 credit score, $1 million in the bank. Wait, they only need to see at least 3 months worth of the project's monthly payment in my bank account. I have that.
Right.
They only need to see at least a 600, 620 credit score. I got a 745. I got that. They only need to see, so it's like when you start to see, they only need to see 2 years worth of taxes. And like, that's what, so all these deals that I'm passing out saying you can get $40, $50, $60,000, I can jump in here too. Now, don't get me wrong. I jumped in and I don't think I ain't see the 40 and 60 and 50,000, which made me look at wholesaling totally different. Cause I get it as a wholesaler, when you're not in it, yeah, you can make 40, 50, 60,000. Then when you get in and you're like, where is that 40, 50, right. Where is that? But I mean, it was literally a fail forward. I got into my first deal, unfortunately got in over my head. So I got the second and third to catch up for that. Then I got the fourth to make up for all of those. Then it just kept going. It just kept going. And ultimately, you find yourself in bigger and bigger deals, all while you're learning along the way. Because just when I thought I had everything right for one of my deals, finally, a renovation to flip, there was a typo on the appraisal. And as you know, we don't choose the appraisers. The appraisal is chosen by the bank. There was a typo. So this whole deal that I thought I had a great value now is $100,000 less in value than what it was. So I immediately went upside down into a project that I thought we were right side up. Like I finally got it right. Finally, let's go. But I realized that those situations only help to get me stronger. They get my prowess up. And it's like going to the gym. Those tough situations, like if everything would have gone perfect, I would not be sitting here before you today. Everything will be, hunky dory and chilling to the sunset. But it's through my failures that I've learned. It's through my failures that I teach. And that's how I've been able to inspire and do what we do, because we've parlayed a lot of those things that didn't go well into just keep going. Just keep going. It's a part of the journey. Knock on the doors and keep going. And that's really what the success is.
Would you say that's real life real estate investing?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yes. Because I mean, there are plenty of days when you're just like, "What did I do this all for? Am I really digging us in a bigger hole?" I mean, those are
Mm,
considerations that you think about. Is it too risky, especially doing this in the midst of a pandemic? But all I
mm,
know is that I can't stop. And it when you say there's no other option, like, it's literally when you go on your test at school and you put an F, it's ABC. There is
right,
no option. So it's
absolutely.
literally, if it doesn't go this way, try this way. And if it doesn't go that way, then you need to try something else. But it's no other. Like quitting is, I wish I can quit sometimes, but it's just not an option. It's literally, it's just ABC.
I say that sometimes, looking at the things that we do in this business, I say, why would anybody sign up for this?
That's where I had to take responsibility, because I started teaching from the onset of my career, because I'm just passionate about helping others, which I have been since my career in media, just passionate about helping others. And then that's why I was like, you know what, I think I'm making this look too easy. Because
Yeah,
this show ain't
yeah.
perfect, but it's about understanding where to go for your resources and making sure that the next deal is better than the last. Making sure we're
Mm,
making smarter decisions and surrounding ourselves with smarter people. So I have an advisory board that I go to now if I want to make a decision, if I should do A or B, like what should
mhm,
I do? And because people will hit me up all the time, like, "Hey, Jess, is this a good deal? I just want to run it by you real quick." And I'm
mhm,
just like, that's a myriad of factors that go into that. What is your risk tolerance? How long can you go
mm,
without set funds? Like it's a multiple layered thing to know if you can get involved in real estate. And the more people you partner with, the more we can share in that risk. And so that's what
absolutely.
we teach, those basic principles of how to bring together the community to invest in something greater than you and to share those risks so that we can ultimately learn from each other's experiences.
Great stuff. And that's the thing. I want to make sure, again, I have to always make sure I reiterate some things because, people will watch this live and some will watch it, after the show. And I want to make sure people get some of the real key points that you're pointing out. And one of those is that people look at what we do in this business as some people come in and they treat it like a hobby,
Mhm,
right?
mhm.
And oftentimes I look at those types of people that come in and they don't realize the risks, the things that, sometimes the sleepless nights, the things that we deal with, as it relates to, is this the right decision? Am I investing the right amount of money? Do I, is it something that I need to put more money into? How do I make these problems go away? Because there's a ton of situations that come up, but I think oftentimes people miss the real rewards. They look at the money that's made, but what I think that's missed is the growth,
Yes.
right? The challenges that we face, as you mentioned, help us grow.
Yeah.
And those are the things. It's not just the money that we parlay into other successful businesses. It's the growth and the understanding that it's not going to be easy,
Yeah.
but it's going to be worth it.
Yes.
You know,
Yes,
that's
and that's what I often think about, because when I look back on my journey and, sometimes even my husband, he'd be like, what in the world? Because I mean, there are a lot of risk, and like you said, it's a lot of sacrifice. And I look back at our trips that we took this year though. Like I remember when I was in corporate America, because I at least get one international trip a year, at least. And
mhm,
I remember being in corporate America and I was ready to take a trip and they were like, "Well, you used up all your vacation days." And I was
mm,
like, "Well, the trip is booked and I'm going. So what do we need to do?" So she was like, "Well, do you want to borrow from next year?" When I had to sign a document
wow.
agreeing to borrow from next year's time, I was like, "Who want prison?" Like, did I just ask to borrow my time from someone
Wow.
else? Like, that was such a thing. So 2021, not that I went without sacrifice, not that, I wasn't in the hospital fighting for my life with COVID, not that I didn't get scammed out of six figures, not that
Mm,
I didn't go through a lot of stuff, but I was able to enjoy a trip to Maui, a trip to Dubai, a trip to Africa, a trip to
mm,
Jamaica, all in the same year, to have all these experiences. I mean, it came with a lot of high highs, but those lows were there too. The
right.
sacrifice was there too. But it made it that much sweeter to get to enjoy the journey and have these adventures. So that's why I call it a journey, because it's no such thing as I've arrived. Because even when you cross that mountain, and that's one of the things I can appreciate from the travels that I've had, when you see one mountain peak, you often see another. You very rarely do you see one mountain by itself. You
True
see it
story.
in a chain. So just as soon as you climb one mountain, you make it to the top, it's another one even taller that's left climb. And
Mm.
that's why I just learned to fall in love with the journey versus thinking that it's about to be a success. I've made it. I'm done. One of my favorite shows I love watching is Billions.
Oh
And
my goodness, that's my joy there.
everybody needs a Wendy, right?
Right,
And
absolutely.
but one of the things I noticed, I'm like, hey, he is still grinding. He's
Yes,
at billions and he's
absolutely.
still grinding. That really taught me. I was like, wow. Because when or for me, when I was younger on my journey, even in corporate America, I thought I was just gonna make it big and stop. Like, who?
Mm,
Let me just buy, even now, my goal is to get to 1,000 doors.
mhm,
I
mhm.
I don't get to 1,000 doors and just stop. No,
Right,
now the goal is 10,000. Like
right.
it keeps growing bigger. The journey only gets that much more expansive. Like it's amazing the things we've been able to accomplish. But I'm meeting people who've done like, cool, I got 3,500 doors. Now what?
Right,
Like I told you,
right.
I'm like planning $1 million years. People planning $1 million days. Like, whoa,
Absolutely.
oh, like okay, it's levels to this.
True story. True story. And that's the thing. Again, I want to make sure, like, so when you're talking about the graduation, right? And that's what I want to make sure people hear, the graduation, going from wholesaling to then getting into development. And even though we'll say you caught hell in that path to there, now you went to the next level
Mhm,
and to do development and to get into hotels.
mhm.
Now, I'm sure that was a breeze, right?
Well, so the development side, I do development in the single family. The hotel is actually already up and running. We took over the hotel. And
Mm.
essentially I learned that really hotels are just franchise opportunities.
Right.
I
Right.
did not realize until after working in this space that a lot of those hotel brands don't actually own the business, the
Mm.
structure. They just kind of slap their name on there. Obviously, they come with a list of requirements that you have to do to get your name on there, just as you will with any franchise. But really, they're a distribution service.
Mm.
That when you go and type in, "Hey Marriott," and you type in, "I'm going to Florida," they pull in all of their franchisees and like, "Hey, here's a list of the Marriotts you can get in Florida." So when I
Mhm.
understood that, it made it more relatable. Like, well, I know real estate. Real estate is real estate. And when you're able
Yeah.
to come in and it's like, oh, hotels are a franchise business in the real estate space. So
Mm.
now I can take this business model and continue it and get to our success. So that's what we're able to do. We're able to find those underperforming assets and now come in. It's like with our business prowess, with our real estate knowledge, and with our hospitality knowledge, we're able to come in and stabilize the asset and grow it from an underperforming asset to outperforming even that.
Mm. Now, somebody would ask, where you get all this money to do that? Because it had to cost you $300 million to do that, right?
But that's why I discuss collaborative economics. And then too, that's where wholesaling parlays into the commercial space as well. I
Mm.
mentioned now the value of the hotel that we transacted was upward of $8 million. For this new deal, upward of $19 million. But as a wholesaler, we didn't pay full price.
Right.
So it's about
Right.
understanding the players on the team and how you can negotiate. So understand if we would have gone to the seller direct, they would have tried to maximize what they can get. So that's
Mhm.
where the strategy even I did as a wholesaler. When one of my first deals that I got into the game of flipping was through what we call a subject to. So essentially,
Mm.
the homeowner of the condo, she wanted way more than what her condo was worth. Like no other condo in the building was selling over 300,000 and she
Mm.
wanted close to 300,000. Now mind you, her condo was outdated, it needed work, and it was just like there was no way. So
Mm.
one of the things we were able to do, we talked to her, was like, look, how about because she couldn't pay her mortgage. So that was the issue. She couldn't pay
Mm.
her mortgage, whether we were there or not to renovate, to buy. But she was dead set on, I work for this. I want my price is my price. So what we
Mm.
did was like, cool, how about this? We take over your mortgage. We pay your note. We pay your note. We'll come in. We'll do the renovations. Then when we sell the house, you can get more of what you want. you can get more of that price. And so I was just telling that to my friend, like, hey, we were able to just take down this deal, and that's how we were able to do it. And she was like, that's a similar concept to what we do in the commercial space.
Wow.
And you can actually get into commercial assets the same way.
Right.
And I was like, hell. And so that's what I mean by you set the goal and the people will come. So now you start meeting with people that are smarter than you. You start going to the rooms in the opportunities where people are automatically already having these conversations, because there's a life cycle within the hotel space where you're looking at about a 5 to 7 life cycle before it needs to be renovated or updated or upgraded. And a lot of times you can catch people that are exhausted. Like by the time they make it to that 5th, 6th, and 7th year, they've exhausted all of their funds and they ain't putting in another dime. How do I find those? Those are the people that I want to help and be a part of it. Because remember, from a wholesaler, I'm looking for people with problems. I'm not going to the Marriott Marquis downtown with hundreds of millions of dollars. I'm looking for that extended stay hotel or a different type of opportunity that looks like, where can I come in and be a resource? And that's what I learned as a wholesaler. So those are the soft skills that I mean that translate into the commercial space, because you're still looking for a deal. You're still looking for an asset that's undervalued. It's just applying it to a different place.
Wow. Do not despise small beginnings is the phrase that I want to make sure I put out there. And because what you're talking about is something that I've done. I mean, I got into selling restaurants, believe it or not.
You say you got what?
I got into selling restaurants years ago. I was actually buying Philly Connection sandwich shops. And so I had like 6 of them. I had options to buy on them. I'm about to buy all these restaurants. I didn't have a dime to my name, by the way. And but I had some investors that were going to invest in buying these restaurants. And I was negotiating on one, and the seller came back, and the franchisee required him to do some upgrades to it. He didn't want to spend the money for the upgrades. It was like $15,000. And of course, I didn't have it. So I went back to my investor. I said, well, the guy wants to sell, but he has to do the upgrades, and he doesn't want to pay for them. My investor said, well, let me just take over and I'll do the upgrades. And I said, okay. And I'm thinking, how am I going to get paid to this, right? He said, I'll take it over. I'll give you the money for the restaurant, and I'll pay you to give me the deal. I said, wait a minute. Okay. This is a restaurant. I knew what we didn't call it wholesaling at the time. It was like contract for deed or something when we were doing it back in the day. And I was like, okay, I can do that. If I'd done that with a house, I didn't know I could do that with a restaurant. So with the other 6 restaurants, him and maybe 3 other investors put all the money in to buy these restaurants, and they paid me a fee to get out of the way.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Yeah. And even a friend of mine, he was at Harvard Business School, and he actually invited my husband and I to come sit in on a class. And one of the conversations they were having in the case study was about how Warren Buffett buys, I mean, you're talking $1 billion level. So it's literally like a Russian doll. Like we're seeing it on the ground level from wholesalers, but you go up the line, this is how business is done. A lot of times, Warren Buffett owns a lot of shares into a lot of businesses. But why? Because he comes in when they're down and they're desperate, and he's able to get a sale. He's able to get a deal. And that's how he's able to buy into all of these companies, not because he works at all of them, but because he comes in, scoops it up, and seizes the opportunity, puts the cash, resurges the cash back in, takes a good bit of equity or ownership into the company to do so. But that is ultimately, from Warren Buffett on down, it's about collaborative economics. No one out here is doing it by themselves.
True story. True story. Now, as simple as those words are, collaborative economics, as simple as those words are, can you explain to the folks that are sitting way in the back that might not understand what you're talking about? How does that work?
Here again, going back to the economics of what I learned from wholesaling. And I always like to tie it to this because I want to make it relatable, because when you speak of it from hotel terms, I feel like people are like, well, I can't do that. So I like to bring it back down to how it parallels to single family space, and then how it can parlay. So look, let's say I go to buy a property, right? And let's say the property is $100,000. My hard money lender is saying, cool, you need to bring in 20% of the deal. We'll cover 80. 20%, 20,000. You said you didn't have 20,000, right? There was a time you didn't have it. There was a time I didn't have it. So to your point, I got a friend, the more I start posting online what I was doing. Now, mind you, at first, I didn't want nobody to know. I'm working in corporate still. I don't want nobody in my business. But when I start putting up, I bump it. I'm just put it up. Here I am. I'm out in the field and I just start posting. I literally can go back to the date that I started and I can mark that's the date when I started working with investors. Because literally after I put up that post of what I was doing in the field, friends, family, people coming out of the woodwork I didn't even expect. Hey, Jess, I got 10,000. Hey, Jess, I got 15,000. Hey, I got 20,000. I'm like, I only need $20,000 to do this deal for the down payment. Then obviously the monthly note, and then now I need the carrying costs, and then whatever to get the project started. So to your point, remember how you were saying earlier, you can make 50,000, but if I can make 25 and everybody eats, then why not explore this route? So I started doing that. So cool. I would take on a project, 100,000. We need to bring 20,000 to the table. My friend that had 20,000, cool. You can buy in, and you know what? I'll split the profits. But I'll do the day to day. Kept doing that. So the projects kept getting bigger. It went from the small condo that I was talking about that only needed a $30,000 renovation to now purchasing multi-million-dollar assets through the same principles, through the same economics. Obviously, I have the structures in place and the businesses in place to sustain that, but that's really what it's about. It's about Jessica at the time may not have the full $100,000, but that's where we partner with the banks to cover 80% of that and do the heavy lifting. Or I partner with investors to help comprise that. Like our project that we're doing in Brunswick, Georgia, that's investors partnering together to make that happen. It's over a $500,000 project that we're able to do, and we're sourcing it in. One problem that Brunswick has is they're not able to get that type of capital there. So they need and are grateful for somebody coming from a larger city to see the value in that city, in that port city, and help to pour back in and partner with investors to bring and target their efforts onto a deal. And that's ultimately what we do. We partner with investors to take down these larger assets so that we can do them together. Because alone, everybody, you got your 20,000, you got your 20, you got your 20. Well, together we got 60. Now we can actually go do something where the 20% down on a project, cool. We take 40,000 of your funds, 20,000 to help, and then that's how we're able to do these projects.
Interesting. So why Brunswick though? Why Brunswick?
Well, for one, my husband is from there. My husband, so him being from there, but it's been the backdrop to our love story. It's so many reasons because honestly, I've been there, going there for years and years and years through COVID. And, like I mentioned, we're at a point, I started doing development just prior to COVID. So we hit COVID and it's just like, whoa, like we're building 6,000 square foot modern builds. We bought a $350,000 teardown. Like that's our, and then I was like, cool, well, let me just get something small. You see the economy going, let me get something small. You go back to Pittsburgh, all them days wholesale in Pittsburgh.
Yes.
I remember sending somebody a package of 3 houses for $60,000.
Wow.
3. Ironically enough, they never did anything to the projects, but I saw somebody try to wholesale one of them for $120,000. I'm like, this same address I wholesaled years ago for $60,000 for 3, and now some 120. So I was like, I feel the price point has gotten a little bit higher than what I'm looking to do here in Atlanta. So unfortunately, due to COVID, we go back to Brunswick. And, some of his family's like, oh, you can park over there. So-and-so passed away. Ain't nobody doing nothing in her house. And I was like, wait. Because this is a nice ranch-style house that they need housing. So I started partnering with the city development planners, and they started talking about their 10-year plans that they're doing to develop the community. And I'm like, wait, this reminds me of what Pittsburgh was. Before we got hold of it. Wait, these houses, 3,000, 4,000, pay the taxes. And you know what too? And I'm not just saying any small city. Don't get me wrong, because they're Macon, they're Augusta and Albany and things like that. This strategy is specifically targeted at Brunswick because it's a port city, and ports bring jobs, ports bring commerce, ports bring access internationally. Within, as much as I love Atlanta, if you go 2 drive north, 2 mile 2-hour drive north, 2-hour drive south, east or west.
Right.
What other large market are you hitting? You go north, you'll be in Cummings, like maybe. You go east, you're in Augusta, maybe. barely. You go west, won't even touch Alabama. You go south, you're hitting Macon. But yet in Brunswick, you're right there next to Savannah, one of the country's largest ports. You go south,
Wow.
less than an hour, you're in Jacksonville. You're not far from Tampa. You're an extra hour to that south, you're in Orlando. You're not too far from Miami. Look at how many larger cities you have more access to versus being here in Atlanta. But in understanding the opportunities that wait, there are jobs, they're redeveloping, they're putting money into these communities. This is the signs of opportunity, not just a small market again in a small market, but now we can go in and I can bring that Aladdin flair down there and be a hometown hero. I didn't even know that going into this space that one of my husband's friends from college would be running for mayor. He's now the mayor down there.
Wow.
Actually, he's being sworn in as we speak. As we speak, he's being sworn in. So it's just interesting to talk about planting a seed and all the resources come. I mean, now he's mayor down there. Now we're really able to make change, and people are not used to someone looking like me going down there and make a difference. And it goes back to the passion I started when I was in high school and wanted to make a difference and be like the example I saw my dad set as a pastor. Now we're able to go do that and help change the lives of communities, provide jobs, and so much more down in a little town that thankfully has been the backdrop to my love story for over 15 years.
Wow. Very similar to what I'm doing in Detroit.
Yeah.
Small town I grew up in, Inkster. I'm doing a little bit there, but I've actually got some investments outside of there. But very, very similar. Like we see what we see here in Atlanta, how these little communities that people didn't pay attention to. Like I bought a house in Lakewood. People's like, "No, I don't buy houses in Lakewood. Lakewood's going down."
Yeah.
I sold that house for 3 times more than what I paid for it. But you see those types of things happening, and again, from small beginnings and looking at how those things can grow, where you have the mindset of abundance, where people miss opportunities because they look at what they see, as opposed to what they visualized. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I mean, great stuff. I mean, I definitely want to come to Brunswick now and see what's going on there.
Oh my gosh, you should definitely let me know. We can set it up. It's just so much opportunity down there. It's an untapped market, and I mean, it's just secretly growing. And even with the Ahmaud Arbery case that happened down there, the attention that's now come to a little town where I used to say Brunswick, and they would be like, New Jersey, and now it's like, oh, you mean Ahmaud Arbery? And so now to get to change the narrative of what that stands for, what this little country town is known for, is now not only the backdrop of political change, but now literal economic change. And that's what I'm excited of what we get to bring. You talk about changing the narrative, that's on the precipice. But I didn't know that would be the backdrop when I got into the project. But it's turned out into a beautiful love story.
Great stuff. So let's talk about the masterclass. So now somebody has to wonder, like, with all of this that you got going on, you got to be sharing this with folks somehow in some way. Yeah. And tell us about the masterclass and how that works out.
So to your point, when I was in renovation, I sought out a mentor to get into the building space because I wanted to do something different.
Why would somebody get a mentor? Why would they do that?
When you want to do something bigger and greater than you, sometimes you need a coach or someone that can help you along the way. And thankfully, that's where, I found Mr. Pat Henderson. He actually had been helping me out in a couple of projects before. And I saw that he was doing these large developments. Now, remember, my specialty was in capital raising capital and working and partnering with and creating collaborative economics. So when I saw these huge projects that he was building, I was like, wait, how can I take, what I do and now partner with you? And so that's how we ultimately started doing the development space. So now you got several the Black development team building these modern build homes in Atlanta. And, to me, it was just like, cool, this is my Tuesday. But other people come by and say, like, what are you guys do? Like, you guys are on this. Like, wait. So then we started our Lawn Chair Learning Circle, which is a community where we'll bring people out because everybody wanted to drop by. And, it's only enough times people drop by and you're like, I actually got to work. So hold that thought. So it was like, let's come up with a organized way to bring people on site, answer their questions, give them insights. Because, when I did the real estate class, I was in a hotel. So now, no pun intended. But
Right.
now, I was like, I'm a visual learner. I like to be like, cool. It's one thing for you to tell me what an LVL is, but I want to point and say, oh, this is an LVL. It's one thing to say, oh, you shouldn't put your deck here, but like, oh, this is why you shouldn't put the deck here. Because it makes so much more sense when you're in the field. And I'm like, it would be a waste to work on. At the time, we had about 5 modern built projects over 5,000 square feet, and no one can see the ins and outs of what we're doing. So our launch learning circles became very popular, and people were like, we want more, we want more. So that's where we developed the masterclass, where we take a deep dive into the building process and how you draw that bridge from going from renovating to development. And we even make it where you don't even have to have renovation experience, but you can jump right into development and how to do new builds and new construction in this space. And we do it from the lens of our modern build developments. Yeah.
Wow.
So it's actually on site here in Atlanta. And it's just beautiful because each stage of the process, we have a home that we go to. So we're moving around, we're hopping, we're in the field. But if we're talking about framing, we go to a property where we're doing framing. If we're talking about demolition, we go to a property where we haven't even started on the project yet. If we're talking about, finishing up in that process, we go to a project that got the walls up and is ready, almost ready to go. Thankfully, because of, us keeping projects and moving forward, we're able to flow and have a project for every step of the process.
Good deal. Good deal. Great stuff. Great stuff. So how would someone find out about the masterclass? How would they get in contact with you to get signed up for that?
The easiest thing to do to find out about all of the offerings that we have is to go to itsjessicamyers.com. But there is a developmentmasterclass.com website. But to go, if it's hard to remember developmentmasterclass.com and It's Jessica Myers, it's all at itsjessicamyers.com where you can find all of it. But if you want to attend our development masterclass here in Atlanta, go to developmentmasterclass.com. Our next class is coming up February 24th. I'm actually working on, because College Park Cottages. So in the development space, and just realize, like I said, we do it through the lens of our modern builds. I am working on actually a master class for tiny homes. So we got really, really large homes, and then now we're working on a development master class for tiny homes. So stay tuned for that information as well. But the biggest thing is creating educational opportunities so that people can understand how to bridge the gap and build their wealth.
Great stuff. Great stuff. Now, of course, we cannot get off this show without talking about all things entrepreneur.
All things entrepreneur. Yes. So it's so interesting because, like you said, with all that I do, I realize that there are layers to what I do. So there is a layer of what I do in real estate and just get money. Like, I just want to get money. But I realized when I had to start filing taxes, when I had to start being responsible, that there is a business that even in real estate that I run. Understanding and getting into the commercial space, and that really those are franchise businesses. So when you start looking at the larger conversation, yes, it's just real estate. Yes, it's just a hustle and wholesaling. But now I've grown from hustling to enterprising. And in enterprising, you need that accountant. You need that bookkeeper. You need a lot of those elements that are going to segue into success. And two, like you said, those days that you want to quit. And it's not just you want to quit just doing real estate, but I know that the barber want to quit too sometimes. I know that the chef who's an entrepreneur and now, a celebrity chef, he's one of our guests. I know that sometimes he want to throw in the towel. And I realized how do I change this conversation? Because so much, people was like, oh, you're wholesale. It's like, yes, I got my start in wholesaling. But I think it's important for people to realize that one, wholesaling isn't about staying in wholesaling for your entire career.
Wow.
And two, wholesaling gets you to other things that you want to do. It's not about loving real estate. Because most people are like, I don't like real estate. Cool, I'm gonna go do something else. Cool. This diamond that I have on, someone had to sell it for cheaper for my realtor.
Absolutely.
I mean, for the jeweler. For the retailer and the jeweler to transact it. Someone had to do it. So there was a wholesaler even within that industry. So I want people to look at the bigger picture of understanding how to get involved in something that will help land you to what you really want to do. Because I think so many people just see what they really want to do and don't see that middle step of how I can make it happen. So hence all things entrepreneur. We all do all different things, but we all got our start through wholesaling.
Real stuff, real stuff. And it's a major thing to talk about, like wholesaling. Like when people think of wholesaling, as you mentioned, people think of that being the do all and say all to real estate, right? They say, I want to get in, I want to be a wholesaler, I want to make all this money, and that's it. Not understanding that wholesaling is transactional. And if you're in the business of making money and making it while you sleep, in the biggest way, you gotta be in a position to be able to create something that's residual, or passive residual in a sense, right? And understanding that, even real estate deals are transactional,
Yeah.
right? And teaching them that the business of real estate is more than just wholesaling, and understanding wholesaling is just a strategy in the business of real estate investing. It's kind of a leap for some people that I
Yeah.
find.
Yeah.
So when you talk about wholesaling being the thing that bridged you from starting with that, then development, now, major development and hotel owning, you know what I mean? It's kind of a, that's why I wanted to give you the step. I didn't want you to, explain the step-by-step transitions of getting to where you are now from wholesaling, so people can see that while you might start from that point and it takes money and credit, that's the thing that I'm looking at debunking, right? Because yes, you don't have to use your own money or credit to do the deals,
but it's
but
still necessary to make it happen.
exactly.
Yeah. So, and that's what I want people to understand too. Like, it's not a no money in. It just
Right.
doesn't have to be your money to stop it. Because I think people think because it takes money, I don't have money, I can't do it. But it's like, as long as where there's a will, there's a way. That's why my first step to anything, you come to any of my classes, anything will be goal setting. It's goal setting. Because I can fuel up the car, be ready to go. But if I never set the destination, what am I doing?
Right. And that's the thing. When you start with education and people being educated, like I had one lady start in my class, and I told her this is the introduction. The first thing we talk about is mindset, right? Because at some point in this thing, you're gonna want to quit, right? That's just inevitable. That's for everybody. So we talk about mindset and stick to it. And she was like, first weekend, she was like, "Oh, I didn't feel like I learned anything." Like, yeah, okay. If that's the case, if you didn't feel like you learned anything, and we talked about mindset, anywhere you go and you skip over that step, you're not going to go far.
Yep. And that's why I'm like, you gotta almost like slow down and speed up.
Exactly. But you have these people, you said, it's funny you mentioned that. You have to slow down to speed up, but there are some people that want to hurry up and wait.
Yeah. That's how I'm like, if for anybody to jump in the conversation about real estate and only want to know about real estate, then we're not having the same conversation.
Exactly. And that's
Because the
thing.
person who made toaster strudel is billionaire. Like, you can make billions from anything, but it's about the mindset that you go into whatever it is you do, and utilizing real estate even as a stepping stone to get there.
Yes, indeed. Great stuff.
I'm glad we were finally able to do it.
I know. Listen, this was absolutely amazing. And I always make it a habit to have the great people that come on, set them up for a second show. So we're gonna do this again.
Yeah. And next time we have to have you on All Things Entrepreneur. That'll be fun.
Definitely, most definitely. I would love to do that. Definitely love to do that. So tell the people, first of all, how do they get to see All Things Entrepreneur?
It is actually, YouTube is the best place to go, but we are on all major podcast platforms. But YouTube, 8 Experience, you can find All Things Entrepreneur on YouTube.
Okay.
Yep. And for any further information or anything you want to reach me, Instagram is the best way. That is me. Reach out to me. It's Jessica Myers on Instagram, as well as reach out to me on Facebook and all major platforms under It's Jessica Myers, LinkedIn, Pinterest, Facebook, everything. Or you can reach me at itsjessicamyers.com. Yes, I am on Pinterest.
Right. Me too.
But I
was trying to avoid Pinterest, but it kept bringing me back in.
Yeah. But actually, they actually do have, I get a lot of great impressions in that space as well. So yeah.
Definitely.
So be sure to tap in, hit us up, itsjessicamyers.com.
Absolutely. And actually, we had a couple. Well, actually, we had Ron Dimmock. My man Ron Dimmock came in and he put a message in. Let me see. Did I miss something over here? Okay. All right. So listen, thank you for coming in. Thank you for being on the show. It's an absolute pleasure to have you.
Yeah.
And any parting words? I know you got to run. Any parting words you want to share with the folks before you jump off?
Well, the way I part with is, you got it. Let's get it. Let's go.
Great stuff.
You got it. Let's get it. Let's go.
Let's go. All right, my sister. Thank you so much for joining me. Have a great day. Happy New Year again. And let's look at getting together and make some things happen. All right. All right.
Cool beans. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, folks. This has been the Real Life Real Estate Investing Show, where we talk about real life real estate situations, but we bring you real life real estate solutions. Check y'all out next week.